All right, so this is how I am currently planning and trying to save and invest as a college student, working 32 hours a week at a car dealership. Um, so I am sure that if you found this video and you're listening, you've heard, a whole bunch of things before, things like, hey, you got to make a budget and you got to, of course, spend less than what you earn and, open a high yield savings account. And at this point, right, I'm fairly sure that you've seen some of those things, heard some of those things, and already know about them, right? These are going to be getting into more specific things that I have done that have worked for me personally. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, right? So this is just what has worked for me either in the past, over time, or what is currently working for me, and things that I've been able to cut, maximize, or take into consideration in order to save and invest. Because I consider investing a fixed expense for me as of right now. That's something that I will continue to put monthly payments towards, basically, to continue to build my retirement and eventually be financially free. So I'm going to get into the first one, and that one is going to be cutting my 401k. So diving into it, right, you have to take into consideration that in 2025, I was making significantly more than I am now, working part time and as a college student now. And that was because I was selling cars. And I know that in my very first video, I had mentioned that I made a little bit over $7,000 one of my best month, one of my not my best month, but my one of my first good months of car sales. And if I was living on 2,500 to $3,000 a month, I was able to shovel that $4,000 into a savings account, investments, all that kind of stuff. So I was making much more than I am now, and because of that, I was putting a considerable amount into my 401k. I was putting 10% at the time, and I eventually bumped it up to 11%, which was the max that I could do. Uh, However, though, my company it provides a match up to 4%. And so, at the time, because I was making more, it made way more sense for me to put, bigger chunks towards my 401k. I wanted to build my portfolio, shovel that money away, get a solid foundation underneath my feet. And so that's why I was doing that. But as of now, I have since then cut that all the way down to the bare minimum, right? So the 4%. That way I still take advantage of the full match and I'm not leaving any money on the table. But also that 7% difference that I just dropped it, going from 11 to 4%, it gets taxed, of course, but then it goes into my pocket, and especially with me making less now, that difference of about $100 a month isn't going to really build my 401k. And, worst case scenario, I could also just put that into my Roth IRA and then go from there. And so in reality, I'm like, that's an extra $100 a month that I could put towards my Roth IRA. And I would much rather do that, or save it, or if I needed it for, repairs on my car, if I needed it to spend on a certain month or something, then that's just an extra $100 in my pocket every month. So that's one of the few ways that I've kind of gotten creative with how to maximize my income, even though I'm not making a bunch and not working a bunch because I'm in college. So extra $100 a month absolutely helps out, and especially right now, I'm renting and I have a roommate, and so it's definitely much appreciated. The next one is going to be, and I briefly mentioned both of these in my very first video, and that was my insurance, my car insurance specifically, and my phone bill. So if you haven't seen my first video, definitely go check that out. In those, I briefly mentioned how I was able to lower them, and how I did that was, on my car insurance, I was able to change the coverages, and also if I had rental insurance, and so I was able to cancel that rental coverage and save some money there. And then kind of the same thing on my phone bill, right? So I have an unlimited plan, but on that unlimited plan for the longest time, it was $100 a month, $100 a month, $100 a month. And I looked into it a little bit more, and I saw in there in the breakdown of the fees and everything that $20 a month was going towards a protection plan for my phone so that if my phone got stolen or broken, they would replace it. But again, like I said, I read in the fine print, and they would have replaced it with a refurbished one, not even a brand new one. And so in my mind, I was like, I have money in the bank to go and buy a phone cash right now and not worry about it. So why in the world would I be paying for this protection plan, especially taking into consideration that I don't really lose stuff, and I'm not really like in a scenario where my phone is going to get broken unless it's some, true weird accident, right? And so I ended up canceling that. And so, together between the two, that probably saved me a total of, $50. With, if you combine that with my 401k, that's an extra $100 a month, plus the money and interest that I'm earning from my high yield savings account. And that's, we're already at $200 a month right there that I just found, not even from adding more work, from, doing a side hustle or anything like that, or really cutting anything of, it's not like I'm going and eating beans and rice and that's all that I'm eating, and I'm, and leaving the lights in my home off or the AC off or the heater off, right? Those are just easy things that I have gotten creative with and optimized since kind of managing my money a bit more. Another one that I didn't really start taking advantage of up until kind of recently was being a member at the grocery store. I know every time that you go to tap your card or insert your card, it asks, hey, put in your phone number, and most people don't do it, or they just because they don't have one and they don't want to take the time to. I just went to the store the other day and I rang up all my items. It was about maybe 2 weeks worth of groceries, right? Maybe a week and a half. And it was going to be like $180 after tax. After I signed up and I had put in my phone number, it saved me $17, $18. It went all the way down to $162. And, if you think about that, and you might go to the grocery store maybe 2, maybe 3 times a week, if that was a week and a half, right? Or 3 times a month. That's another $50 that you're saving from nothing, just from making an account. Like, hey, I'm a member, here's my phone number. You can unsubscribe from the emails and texts that they send you if you want to, and you just reap the rewards of the savings. So that's another one that I think isn't really talked about, and is definitely, at least in the recent past, has made a little bit of an impact for me. Now whenever I go and ring up food, I'm kind of excited to see how much I save. And of course, while I'm there, I'd recommend, of buying generic items over the name brand item. Most of the time, if it's like Walmart, you get the great value stuff, right? For example, and that those can definitely save you money over time. But I don't think that Walmart has a grocery member program, though. It's mainly stores like Albertsons, Safeway, that kind of stuff. Fry's is another big one. But yeah, name brand versus generic stuff, and then couple that with the member savings, and you definitely save quite a bit. And I'm a single guy, right? And so that was just groceries for me. If you have a family, these savings, that could be upwards of $80 a month, probably, if not $100, depending on how much you spend on food, and how many kids, or if you have a wife, all that stuff. So definitely, I would recommend doing that if you haven't already. Another small one that I've taken advantage of, but has helped, is student discounts. So I use Apple Music. I know if you're a Spotify fan, don't hate on me, but I use Apple Music, and because I'm a college student, they actually offer student pricing. And so that was, and I kind of looked into that. And although it's not a huge, crazy discount, it is a couple bucks a month, and I don't plan on canceling my music subscription, only because it's a handful of dollars every month, and I listen to music a lot. That's definitely one that, I just kind of typed in my phone number, and they honestly, they asked me, I think like the last time they asked me if I was a student was like 2 years ago, and I still was, but that's just one that I'm just consistently saving money on, and I don't have to do anything. It takes 5 minutes of work, and then there you go. And so those are a couple things that I've done as, just working part-time, trying to maximize how much money I'm bringing in and minimize the damages over the month, right? So definitely start with the other things, right? Like looking into your, high yield savings account, that definitely earns you an extra 3% on whatever balance that you have in there. So that's absolutely the core of where you should start, right? Budgeting is another huge one, actually taking a deep dive in your finances. I've done this before. I literally went back for like 2 months of statements, right? And every single charge that I had, I wrote it down and I kind of divided it up categorically. And I saw where I was spending money on food and what recurring investment, what recurring charges I had, and all that kind of stuff. And so it just really put into perspective, like, oh my gosh, I'm spending this much a month on food or on this. I should really cut that down. Another big one is like food delivery services, right? Like where you go on an app and you just type in that you want this. Those kill you, and I'm no different, right? Like I've used them before, but that's also how I know that it's, they are charging you an arm and a leg for that stuff, and it might not feel like it at the time, and of course this is all relative, right? Like I mainly use that when I was a salesperson and where it was, super fast paced. I didn't really have time to like sit down and eat lunch or leave and go and eat lunch. I might have a guest coming in an hour, and so I'm like, well, do I want to do this, So of course, there are situations where it might not be feasible or it might be beneficial for you to use those services, which is why they exist in the first place. And so that's just another small topic that I wanted to talk about. But yeah, start with your high yield savings account. Definitely get a budget, and then look at your recurring. I would start with your recurring expenses, your subscriptions that you have, and definitely look into stuff like, and really ask yourself like, okay, well, how much do I use, ChatGPT to pay for a subscription, or how much do I use, X service to justify this payment, right? And if it's less than 4 times a week, I would consider either canceling, lowering your subscription, or going to some other alternative that isn't as expensive. I even, especially now, like you can find most things either on YouTube or on some other streaming service that is fairly cheap. You don't need to be paying for a whole bunch of stuff. Like unless you're using it at a real professional level every day, all the time, a lot of that stuff isn't really necessary. But these are just a couple ways that I'm, again, trying to maximize every dollar that gets put into my bank account. That includes net and gross, right? And also minimize the damages month to month. Please let me know what you thought of the video. What small things you're doing to save, or if any of these you're going to look into and help you save or maximize how much money you have coming in every month. As always, you deserve more. Now get out there and prove it.